You invest in an electric car, and you certainly are going to have a 300,000 to a 1 million mile car.
Wow.
They don't have the wear and tear of a multi-thousand piece gas engine with the drivetrain and the transmission.
Wow.
They're much, much simpler. That's going to be a big sea change. So you would have a car that's going to last a lot longer. And then on top of that,
Hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Richard Flentge. If this is your first time joining us, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell and hit that like button. This will be greatly appreciated in helping getting out this content to great leaders and great individuals like yourself. Richard is the former co-host of EVTV, a worldwide webcast and private renewable energy research facility. Richard is an entrepreneur who started a business out of his garage and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business. Richard has experience in solar battery, banks for off-grid, computer power backups, solar homes, and electronic vehicles. Please help me welcome Richard with Renewable Energy. This is Cedric Francis, and you are listening to Lead to Greatness.
my name's Richard Flentge. I'm a Midwestern, really an entrepreneur, and I've worked in a couple fields. I am a very traditional entrepreneur in that I started out of a garage, and I started by myself, and I built a business by hand with one and only employee for several years, and then I grew that into a multi-million-dollar business and a large manufacturing plant. And I basically got out of that, sold out of that, and went a few years. And then I got back into another entrepreneurial endeavor, which was the electric vehicles and the solar products. But my primary background is in product. I develop products. I've written a couple patents, manufacturing and assembly processes. And so I'm not a techie person. I'm a hands-on dealing with products type of background. The original product was a composite bed cover for pickup trucks. And I camped and did stuff in my pickup truck, and there really wasn't available on the market a style of cover I liked. And I developed a really low profile, some people call them flush fits. And I would say the first thing in the entrepreneur side of it was, because I was in the area, I knew what I liked, and I knew that the market didn't provide it. That initiated my serious investment when I couldn't find what I wanted.
You constantly hear things like, people want to start a business because they want to make more money. And I hear these stories all the time from hundreds of successful entrepreneurs like yourself, which basically just something so simple as you having a problem, solving a problem, and found out that problem not only add value to you, but add value to someone else. And you talked about that, and you talked about you sold the business, right?
I sold the business. Yeah.
Okay, so you sold the business, and let's talk about what you did in between those times. So in between businesses, so let's say the business was two mountains, and now you're in the valley. What did you do during that time in the valley?
I worked a lot on two areas: customer database, so that I learned to keep records of everybody I contacted. I accumulated more and more customer databases. And then I did product development, which I had a huge amount of failure. And I can, if you're in that endeavor, if you're going to make omelets, you're going to break a lot of eggs. I made, as I look back, I made boneheaded mistakes. I made cavalier mistakes that I was so aggressive, and I thought I was so smart because I had been successful
Mm.
that I didn't get good advice, and I sort of plowed into a lot of things. So
Wow.
I worked a lot of hard days that did not bear fruit. But after I got through all that, that valley,
Mm.
then I was pretty smart, because
Mm.
I would say, what the term smart means. If you get hit in the head with a hammer, it's smarts, and not to put a hammer up above your head after
Right.
that. So
Yes,
I
sir.
got smarter from hard knocks.
Yes, 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 yes. And Richard, that's another lesson for us as well, because I used to be scared of failure. Now it's a little different now because I realize failure benefits me, and
Yep.
failure is nothing but lessons. And you just shared your experience. I mean, which the same thing.
I had a saying was, and that's another way not to do it. So uh,
Exactly.
uh, it is just absolutely, if you're in the product business, you
Yeah.
actually do run a lot of failure.
Mm.
So you better buckle up and be a pretty tough-minded person to drive through that.
Richard, I want to do this because man, what you're dealing with right now, and what you're passionate about, and the kind of the things that you're in right now is very interesting. It's still new,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know the percentage. I wish I would have had those statistics, or maybe you can share that. But there's a large percentage of people still driving, including myself. I have
Mm-hmm.
a Toyota Tundra, so I drive a gasoline vehicle, and there's a lot of gasoline vehicles on the road. I see Teslas, and I see electric cars on the road as well. But at least in the state of Texas, gasoline vehicles are still dominant.
They are.
And so this thing is still new. A lot of people don't understand it. For example, myself, my family, and I, we went from Houston and we went to Oklahoma. And things that I'm even skeptical about this when we're talking about electric vehicle. And I want you to enlighten us.
There is, in a lot of markets, and the way things goes, it's sometimes called an adoption curve.
Mm.
So if you go to copiers or digital cameras or any type of computers or any kind of technology, it starts off and it goes along sort of a flat plane for a long time,
Mm.
and then it kicks up. And to put it in simple terms, the early adopters, the risk takers, and those people want it at first, and they sort of figure everything out and debug it and find out how great it is. And then everybody wants it. So at some point, there will be a tipping point in electric vehicles, and everybody will want them.
Mm.
Now, the advantage that a lot of people talk about when I have been around electric vehicles, and I've driven a multitude of them and had a Tesla and done all this stuff.
Mm.
One, you don't go to the gas station. So you basically charge at your home the whole time. So it kind of rearranges your life. Number two, there are issues with, if you're out and you're traveling, you have to sort of adapt to where you find where you charge and those kind of things. Now, one of the big sea changes in the business that has just occurred is Ford and General Motors are adopting the Tesla charging system.
Mm.
So that was the big hindrance, is that if you bought a Ford Mustang Mach-E, you couldn't go a lot of places. You couldn't drive where I'm at to Tennessee without having to stop and take long charges.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be accessing the Tesla system, which has an entire network across the nation.
Mm.
So the adoption curve, and the thing I talked about earlier, the ease of operating the electric vehicle and recharging is slowly moving forward.
Mm.
It is slowly becoming much easier to do.
Yeah.
But the electric vehicle, well, in the big picture, it's emission free.
Mm.
So we do have some issues concerning the health of our water supplies and our people, based on the particulates and different noxious gases that come out of exhaust pipes.
Yeah.
And pretty well the decision has been made by, at least world leadership, that if this stuff adds up, it's very bad for the human population. So,
Yeah.
one, as you move to the electric, you are helping the future in reducing poisons in our environment. Then the second thing is, a lot of people don't see this coming. They are a very simple car. They have quite a few less parts, and they really don't know how long these things are going to last. So you invest in an electric car, and you certainly are going to have a 300,000 to a 1 million mile car.
Wow.
They don't have the wear and tear of a multi-thousand piece gas engine with the drivetrain and the transmission.
Wow.
They're much, much simpler. That's going to be a big sea change. So you would have a car that's going to last a lot longer. And then on top of that, it's hugely more efficient. So you're getting the equivalent of 125 miles to 150 miles a gallon. So instead of spending $80, you're going to spend 20. So it's going to re-equation the whole system. And it's coming. The decisions about all that's already been made. The major automakers and the world governments and all that have already made their commitment to electric. So need to get prepared.
I want you to go ahead and show us that book and talk about the book a little bit. So go ahead.
This is the book I wrote, which is Verity's Electric Mule. It's got a Tesla on the front, and it's the story how Tesla and the portable battery are going to stop climate change and save planet Earth. So in the background, the big goal is that when we get to renewable energy and we stop the gases and we get a clean Earth to live on, it's going to be because we've stopped basically what comes out of the tailpipes. Well, I had worked in a business that converted gasoline cars to electric, and then we also sold solar components from repurposed electric vehicle batteries. So I got very, very used to it. But going to the main point is really the portable battery, and that's what I talk about in book. And the headline is that when you can capture electricity and you can store it, and the advantage of a lithium ion battery, a lead acid discharges over time. A lithium battery, you fill it up, you come back a year later and it's still full. But the portable battery concept will allow us to move electricity pretty seamlessly. So for example, you're in Houston, you got a lot of solar, you get a lot of sunshine because of your latitude line. You could have solar arrays there. You could produce a huge amount of electricity. You could pump that, you could direct that solar energy into a solar battery train, and you could ship it to Chicago. These portable batteries would allow you to move complete stored energy. And then if you look at your car, when you couple what is called bidirectional charging, you could take your car out in the morning, go to work, plug up to a solar hub, fill your car up with sunshine electricity, drive home, plug it into your home, and power your home at night.
Come on.
That is not even a discussion. That is the fact. And they are working legislation, and they are working the technology out right now. And all the companies that are in this that's basically where it's going. So, and now it take a while, but now Houston, you don't have as big a curve down there as other places.
I agree.
You got a lot of sunshine.
Yes.
You're very close to
the equator.
Yeah, you're close. You guys, I'm sure you'll see more and more. They're called microgrids, and you'll see more electric vehicles.
Richard, I don't want the Lead to Greatness community to miss this, because you're talking and you're mentioning opportunity. I remember I will never forget, it was like 2003. I remember I was working in a shop at the time. I was a mechanic working in the shop. And I remember when they first introduced the text message to the cell phones,
Yeah.
Me and the guys that I was working with, we were laughing, making fun of text messages, talking about how stupid it was. It's crazy. It don't make any sense. And here I am, fast forwarding 20 years later. You can text 20 people and everybody get the information versus have to, so it's a little different. So I like the text messages, and I like the way the text messages work. And then moving on to 2008, this thing came out, digital currency, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And here I am again, Mr. Smarty Pants. I laughed at it and made fun of it. And here comes 2020. In the midst of a global pandemic, Bitcoin went crazy and people became millionaires and billionaires. And now here we are. You're talking, Richard, you're sitting here right now telling us about this thing, this curve that I believe, and I want you to help. And I know we got some smart people listening today, so we're all listening, but I want you to help me, help us to understand the advantages and what we can look at right now from a business standpoint, from an economic standpoint, from a community standpoint. What are some benefits, or what are some things that we can get into? Tagging at your entrepreneur brain, what are some things or some possibilities or of job creations that we can create?
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I've spoken on that before. First thing you would need to really think about is batteries are very physical. These are big items. They require heavy lifting equipment. They require some maintenance, and they require wiring and connectivity, and they require microcontrollers. So now, if I had one advice, I would say learn a little bit of microcontrollers and coding. That is going to be a huge industry because everything that is now run by a physical switch, like light switches and different things, that's going to switch over to where it relates to a coded microcomputer, microprocessor, and a relay and a switching. So if I was an entrepreneur, I would be looking at that. And then the second thing is you would have to understand solar panel construction, solar panel assembly, and how they operate. So it's a fairly simple wiring process. Those areas, and then having to deal with a battery, understanding that a battery goes to a low voltage point, and then you charge it to a high voltage point. So you kind of would want to have some familiarities with battery functions, but it's within a narrow field of understanding. So all businesses and really homes and neighborhoods are going to be moving towards this. Now I'm thinking it's way out. So I don't want to tell people this is next week. I would say, as far as a huge industry of people handling batteries, it might be 10 to 15 years down the road. So
that's quick. That's quick.
That's
not that
quick,
long away. Yeah.
But it's not next week. So,
okay.
But it's coming, and a lot of people in important places have already made the decision. This is the way to go.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Lead to Greatness. Disclaimer: this is not financial advice. We're not financial advisors, so do your own diligence and researching. Yeah, and I know there's some visionaries right now that's probably listening, and their brain is just turning on the problems they see and already coming up with solutions for new businesses that haven't been invented yet. So, man, hats off to you guys.
I was in executive position. I had different managers underneath me, and I had a lot of employees. And the thing I would always share is you build your company, you build your operation by building others. So when you have people around, work with them, train with them, educate them, build them up, and that's how you get a good organization. You build your business, you build yourself by building others. Make their job easier, develop a communication system that is formatted, index and file and organized for them. And if you're going to be a leader, give them structure and give them tools that make their job easier.
And that is a knowledge bomb. On top of, I've been so intrigued in this conversation. I mean, you've been dropping knowledge bombs, and
I learned them the hard way. That's one thing I will tell you is that I avoid all my mistakes, and I had all the money back I lost. I had one of my other funny stories. I wanted to get into my manufacturing process painting, and I never should have got into that because it involved coding and OSHA regulations and all this stuff. So when I got all said and done with it, and I spent a year or two on it, I was like, I wish somebody just would have taken my money, thrown it out on the floor and burned it and hit me with a 2x4. So I would have got the money loss over and the pain all done in one day. Oh, so I don't want to ever come across that I did it, magically. It was through a lot of work and struggles. So yes, that's part of being in business, I guess.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Richard, what are some practical leadership growth tips, tools, advice that you would share with the Lead to Greatness community to help us reach our greatest potential?
My strongest leadership advice, and I turned the camera, you can see this behind me. I am very big on labeling and tagging and index cards. And I will explain the system very simply. It's that if you walk up to something, all the information you need to know is right at your fingertips. So, record what you're supposed to order or where you got it. I like to date everything. I like an index file I just had a guy I was working with the other day. We were looking for a file. First thing we did was pull out our index. It gave me the number. It's 66. I go right to my file with that in it and I find it. So take the time to index your stuff, take the time to label some things. You will make your job, you will make your brain easier as a leader. You will not have to search and fumble around and think all the time. So that would be my biggest tip.
Richard, that is a knowledge bomb. Thank you, thank you.
I had a lot of failures, but you get one winner, you get one home run, and it will drive you. And let me tell you what a home run is. You come in the morning and there's a stack of orders there, and you put them out and you come in the next day and there's another stack. It just consistently, the machinery that you set up, the designs of the product, customer satisfaction, all those things, it just keeps happening. But no, there's a lot of, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and if you're going to do this, you're going to be very committed. And that's, and a lot of people you see don't show you all that. And they don't show you the paychecks. So you don't really know.
Right. You don't even know.
Every once in a while I'm like, I'd like to see the paycheck on that because I don't always believe that. But, well, if you're real, you do something that benefits your customer, it's going to benefit you. Always keep that in your heart. Whatever you provide, it's a benefit to the person that gets to it. So.
Knowledge, wisdom. If someone wanted to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
I have a media site, and it's richardflentge.com, RICHARDFLENTGE.com. And I post my blogs. I have other podcast videos that I've been on, and it's free. I generally educate, and then I do my book sales off of it. And that's kind of my thing. And the books I do to help educate. If you want a book, it's got a lot more of that kind of stuff. And I put humor in it. I don't, it's not some, it's got some technical sides. It's got stories of what I've done. It's got cat jokes, Tesla jokes. So So I do stuff like that.
Awesome.
You can just go to my media site, richardflenge.com, and it's got all my Twitter links and different stuff I've done.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself. So we want to thank you for joining us today. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.